Hello, my name is Edward Sonino. This video is about what Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Donald Trump don't understand. This is part one, and it's on Hillary Clinton. Just for starters, Hillary Clinton doesn't understand that having been a senator and secretary of state does not necessarily mean that she's properly qualified to be a good president. That is, that she has the superior knowledge and judgment required to be effective. One can be senator and secretary of state and yet know nothing about solving the nation's economic and social problems or even its foreign policy problems. She has demonstrated her utter incompetence in foreign affairs. One, by recklessly sending an ambassador to the jihadi-dominated Libyan city of Benghazi with just a couple of bodyguards, and then being surprised that he was murdered within days of his arrival. Two, by not having a plan to immediately put Libya on a sound path to political stability after Gaddafi was removed from power, obviously having learned nothing from the post-Saddam debacle in Iraq. Three, by naively believing that she could trust a KGB-led Russian government and engage in a reset. Four, by claiming that the San Bernardino terrorist attack by two Muslim extremists had, and I quote, nothing to do with Islam, end quote, demonstrating that she has never read the Quran or studied the history of Islam and the life of Muhammad, which is extremely irresponsible for any American Secretary of State or President. Furthermore, she has not explained how she would deal with Islamic terrorism, with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, and North Korea. Nor has she explained how she would deal with increasing worldwide violations of the United Nations Charter and its Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And, scandalously, she never proposed defending Palmyra, the World Archaeological Heritage Site in Syria, from ISIS. Allowing ISIS to take control and destroy large parts of that ancient Roman city of incredible beauty was a veritable disgrace, not just of the United States, but also of the entire civilized West. Hillary Clinton also has a very weak grasp of economics, mistakenly believing that her husband's policies were responsible for the economic boom of the late 1990s and the elimination of our budget deficits. Her narrative is that the economic boom was due to Bill Clinton's raising taxes and cutting spending, which led to lower budget deficits and consequently to lower interest rates and strong economic growth. She fails to understand that the economic recovery during her husband's 2 terms had nothing to do with his fiscal policy, and all to do with, 1, the Federal Reserve's expansive monetary policy following the recession and housing bust at the end of the Bush administration, which led to a strong housing recovery, and 2, with a consumer and capital spending boom due to the rapid development of mobile telephony, laptop computing, and of the internet, and finally, due to gigantic corporate spending on software and hardware upgrades in view of Y2K. The Bill Clinton theory that lower interest rates depend on declining budget deficits has been proven wrong by the experience of the past 8 years, as the budget deficit soared to record highs after 2008, yet interest rates simultaneously declined to historical lows due to the Federal Reserve's expansive QE monetary policy. As a matter of fact, budget deficits do not correlate with either interest rates or inflation, contrary to the conventional economic wisdom. But the point regarding Hillary Clinton is that she clings, either due to ignorance or stubbornness, to theories which are flatly contradicted by statistics. That is not a sign of being qualified to be president by any logical standard, since to be qualified, one must be very sharp, competent, knowledgeable, attuned to reality, and capable of seeing where conventional wisdoms are mistaken. Hillary Clinton has not even addressed the crucially important matter of how to prevent long recessions and high unemployment, our worst recurring economic problem. Since recessions and unemployment are always the result of insufficient personal income and spending, the clear solution would be to have QE finance tax rebates as the standard economic stimulus tool. In fact, tax rebates instantly raise personal income without increasing government indebtedness when they're financed through QE. They should be used whenever the unemployment rate rises above 5%. Demonstrating her ignorance of economics, Hillary Clinton has not once offered an explanation for the sluggish economic recovery since the 2008-2009 recession. She has not once criticized the Federal Reserve's ultra-low interest rate policy, which is counterproductive by reducing interest income, a very important component of personal income, apart from being very unfair to savers and having severe negative side effects on the banking and insurance sectors. As for her recommending a hike in the minimum wage, just like Bernie Sanders, it's the typical illusion and mistaken belief of people who have no understanding of economics. If legislating higher wages were the solution, poverty would be eradicated overnight all over the world. Both Clinton and Sanders fail to understand that such a measure is counterproductive, leading, 1, to higher unemployment among minimum wage earners, as companies respond by cutting back on minimum wage employees. 2, to higher business costs and consequently higher consumer prices. And 3, to slower economic growth. The way to help low-income Americans is not through minimum wage hikes, but through sustained economic growth and low unemployment, achievable with QE finance tax rebates as the standard economic stimulus tool used whenever the unemployment rate rises above 5%. And when necessary, through income subsidies such as earned income tax credits. Hillary Clinton also does not understand that Dodd-Frank is not the optimal way to prevent financial crises due to fraud and high-risk investments by financial institutions. Dodd-Frank not only is incredibly costly to implement, but highly inefficient. The efficient, low-cost way to prevent bank failures or to deal with them is to enact legislation clawing back all management salaries above $100,000 and all bonuses over the 10 years prior to bankruptcy, and requiring all derivatives to be marked to market daily or properly discounted when they are not traded regularly. That would be enough incentive for financial institutions to run their business prudently. In case of bankruptcy, no matter how large the bank, the Federal Reserve should simply be required to immediately step in and recapitalize a failing institution in exchange for total ownership, install new management, and then sell its shares in an IPO down the line to recover its investment. That is essentially how the savings and loan crisis of the early 1990s was dealt with. The mega financial crisis of 2008 would have been stopped in its tracks with such a comprehensive approach. No bank would have been too big to fail, and there would have been no disruption of the financial sector. As for the solutions to our social problems, such as poverty, the high school dropout phenomenon, high rates of criminal recidivism, drug addiction, violent crime, excessive force by the police, and illegal immigration, Hillary Clinton, just like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, has offered none. What type of presidential candidate is that? While Hillary Clinton has offered no effective solutions for those problems, they should be evident. For poverty, the obvious solution is greatly improved primary and secondary schools and avoiding long recessions and high unemployment through the innovation of QE finance tax rebates to be used whenever the unemployment rate rises above 5%. For the high school dropout phenomenon, the clear solution is strict discipline in the public schools, lots of homework, mandatory study hall, and individual tutors and mentors for students falling behind. To greatly reduce the high rates of criminal recidivism, we need drastic prison reform, with a major emphasis on intellectual, spiritual, and psychological rehabilitation. For drug addiction, the solution is having psychology and group therapy classes in all high schools in order to deal with psychological problems. For violent crime, Clinton naively believes gun control is the solution, as though black markets for weapons don't exist, just like they do for drugs. For excessive force by the police, the solution is to have all officers go through mandatory training and graduation from a prestigious National Police Academy. For illegal immigration, the solution is mandating a high-tech ID card connected to a national database required for employment, bank accounts, credit and debit cards, telephone and internet access, real estate transactions, driver licenses, auto purchases and rentals, and medical care. With such a system, an illegal immigrant will find it impossible to live in the United States without being detected. Being demonstrably incompetent in foreign and economic policy and not having solutions for our social problems, it should be clear to everyone that Hillary Clinton is not properly qualified to be president. Her resume consists only of having been a pedestrian senator and Secretary of State with no successful policy innovations or accomplishments. Hillary Clinton is a perfect example of experience being no guarantee of expertise or competence. Contrary to her belief, that resume does not make her properly qualified to be president, not by a long shot. What Hillary Clinton has is personal ambition, lots of it, but that does not qualify her to be president. In fact, personal ambition not accompanied by policy expertise should be an automatic disqualifier. A nation cannot afford to be in denial about the shortcomings of its political candidates. A nation's citizens must be rigorously logical and objective if they want their political leaders to be competent and capable of obtaining good results. This is the end of part 1 concerning Hillary Clinton, part 2 concerning Bernie Sanders, and part 3 concerning Donald Trump will follow on separate videos. Thanks for your attention.